The rain had ended the way a fight ends, abruptly, with a silence that felt suspicious. The jungle smelled like copper and wet leaves. Everything dripped. Chief Petty Officer Evan Cross lay prone at the lip of a terraced hillside, his NVGs washed in a milky green haze. The valley below was a black bowl full of bad intentions, its rim pricked with the cold red eyes of distant cigarettes. He listened to the mountain breathe, the hiss of insects, the heavy exhale of mist off the river, the faint electric hum of a generator too disciplined to be civilian. 2 minutes to push, whispered Petty Officer Reyes over the net. Calm, like the minutes before a storm forgets it was ever part of the sky. Cross clicked his mic twice. His heart beat slow, economical, the way it always had when things got real. He could taste tin. Ahead, through a corridor of banana leaves, the objective crouched on a plateau. A long house of corrugated steel on concrete pillars, a skeleton of satellite dishes, and a slim fiber trunk they'd come halfway around the world to sever. In a storage room at the back, 3 NGO medics, Americans, were tied with zip ties, leveraged to keep a radio war machine safe from prying hands. On the roof, under a slanted tin awning, a man smoked and watched the clouds as if he'd hired them. Cross rolled his neck once. Heads, he said. Remember, we're not here to make noise. We cut the brain stem and walk away. Copy, Reyes breathed. Ghosts. The team moved. 6 men became 6 shapes that learned the shadows and wore them. Mud sucked at their boots. The first ditch swallowed them thigh-deep. Cross felt the jungle tug him like a mother who had already lost too much and wanted this one back. They waited, then climbed, using roots like knotted rope. The plateau came up fast and too quiet. Cross halted them in a stand of teak. The longhouse hum was louder now, a layer cake of electronics, fans, drives, the sibilant buzz of a poorly grounded rack. He watched the smoker on the roof stub out his cigarette with surgical neatness and lift his rifle just to feel its weight. The man wasn't bored. He was patient. Different problem. Cross gestured. Reyes and Nava split left to the generator shack. Oates and Kim drifted right to the comms dish. Parker stayed with Cross, a shadow tethered to the chief's bad ideas since Ramadi. Cross felt the weight of the suppressed carbine, the way it became an argument you could end without raising your voice. He placed his palm lightly against the longhouse wall and felt the dull bass of servers moving data faster than men could regret. Reyes' voice in his ear. Jen said as laced. On your word. Kim's whisper followed, thin with static. Dish cut. Fiber exposed. Clean pull on your go. Cross said nothing. He watched the roof. The smoker shifted, his posture narrowing. Somewhere past the treeline a frog barked like an old dog. The mountain breathed again. Parker's breath ghosted Cross's cheek. Chief. Cross exhaled through his nose. On me. They rolled under the longhouse, bellies to wet concrete. Spiders fled in polite silence. A forest of pillars held the building like long fingers. Cross counted heat signatures. 3 in the main room, 2 pacing a corridor, 1 steady in the storage room. The hostages, probably on the floor, knees to chest. He tasted more tin. He knifed the mesh skirt and slid in. Parker flowed behind him. The underfloor was a crawl space of cable trays and neglected tools. Sweat cooled on Cross's back, turned cold. They reached the center and felt the voices above them through the boards, a scrape of boot, a chair leg dragged. A word in a dialect Cross didn't know but recognized as the universal syllables of boredom covered in a thin film of discipline. He held up 2 fingers to Parker, then turned his fist. Now? The first charge on the generator shack went whisper loud, just a cough in the jungle night. The hum above them died mid-sentence. Fan spun down. Darkness swallowed the longhouse like a mouth closing. Someone cursed. The roof guard shifted. Cross saw his boots through a seam of light as he moved to look over the edge. Kim's cutter chewed the fiber with the tiny sound of something expensive becoming simple. Cross pushed up a hatch in the floor with the tenderness of a thief who loves what he steals. He rose into the server room's dark, night vision feathering him in green, Parker behind. The first man pivoted on a squeak of rubber sole. Cross's suppressor coughed. The man folded like exhausted laundry. The second went for a flashlight. Parker's round clicked the switch off forever. Cross drifted through rows of racks that had become trees, a forest where men forgot they were prey. A voice yelled from the corridor, men running. Cross ghosted to the storage room. Through the door's mesh, he saw three shapes bound ankle to wrist, a woman blinking hard against panic. He put a finger to his lips. She squeezed her eyes shut and nodded. Boots hit the threshold at a run. Cross and Parker moved in a geometry too practiced to name. Two men entered. Two men never left. Cross caught the third with a forearm that was also a wall, and the man went to the floor in a noisy argument with his own bones. Parker zip-tied him blind and breathing. Cross cut plastic from the medic's wrists. The woman whispered, "Thank you," like she was afraid to break the night. "Can you walk?" Cross asked. "They made us," she said, voice steadying. "We can make it again." "Good answer." He handed her a poncho to dull the white of fear and blood. "We move." The roof guard had not come. That bothered Cross like a splinter under a fingernail. They flowed back down to the crawl space, the medics low and fast. Outside, thunder rolled without lightning. The mountain's breath turned heavier. "Traffic on the road," Reyes whispered. "Truck headlights, slow, like they're savoring." "How many?" Cross asked. "2 trucks." 10, no, 12 guns minimum. "Kim, fiber is dead. We're deaf to them, and they're deaf to the world." A heartbeat. "But we're not alone." Cross tasted rain that hadn't fallen yet. "We're exfil too," he said. "Under the aqueduct." "Reyes, with me for the hostages." "Oates, Kim, spoiling delay on the road. Make them curious somewhere else." They slid downhill through high grass, the longhouse behind them going from shape to rumor. The river's song grew louder, stones gossiping about water. The aqueduct was a concrete grin half swallowed by vines, just tall enough to crouch in and hate yourself. Cross pushed the medics in first. "No light," he said. "Hands on the wall, left shoulder. Count your steps if you need to count something." They moved. The tunnel smelled like limestone and regret. Water licked their boots. Far above, engines muttered. Oates' charges thumped in the distance like a giant knocking on a worse door. Shouting went that way. Good. Halfway through, the tunnel sighed and changed its mind. The mountain gave up the rain it had hoarded. A pulse of water hit them in the shins and then the knees. The medics stumbled, caught themselves. Cross pressed them on. Behind him, Parker's hand tapped twice on his pack. "I'm here." Forward. They broke into the open under the aqueduct's mouth. The jungle was all silver and black and wet teeth. Reyes slid out beside Cross, a shadow with cheekbones. "Roadblock," he breathed. They parked horizontal. Stupid and effective. "How many?" "Enough to get cocky." Cross scanned. Let the valley settle into a map. The exfil LZ, Raven Point, was still a kilometer through dripping bamboo, across a shallow cut in the ridge. If the trucks turned their noses this way, the LZ would become a bowl full of tracers. He felt the decision like a stone in his mouth. He keyed the long range. "Raven, this is Ghost Actual. Package secured, bikes on the trail. LZ hot in 5. How copy?" Static licked his ear, then a voice that smelled like hydraulic fluid and coffee. "Ghost, Raven copies. We're 30 mics out. Storm pushed us south. You're on your legs until we're your wings." Cross looked up at a sky with no stars. "Roger. We'll make our own weather." He turned to the medics. "We have 30 minutes to be interesting in a way that keeps us alive. Stay with Reyes. You're glue now." The woman nodded, jaw set like a command. "We're glue." They moved in a bent line through bamboo that caught their sleeves and whispered, "You don't belong." Oates' voice came low and pleased. "Roadblock is curious somewhere else." "Good dogs." Kim added, "Pack 2 is waiting where the trail narrows. We can teach them to hate stairs." Cross said, "Teach them. Don't let them get good at it." The trail narrowed into switchbacks like someone had pinched the mountain and twisted. Mud slicked everything. The medics climbed better than fear said they would. Reyes set a pace that was mercy wearing steel. Halfway up the second switchback, the night went from wet to loud. A flare hissed awake over the roadblock, turned the trees into paper cutouts. The trucks had figured out they were being danced. Men shouted, the chorus of the undertrained, noise instead of plan. Oates' charge answered with a crack in a toppled tree. The chorus lost the melody. 2 squads breaking up trail, Kim reported. "They're learning stairs the hard way. Delay and fall back in 3s, Cross said. "Raven in 27. Don't be heroes for anyone but each other." They climbed. The jungle pressed fingers into Cross's ribs. He felt the mountain's breath in his ear. He thought about silence, about the way it was a gift you could give your brothers by eating noise for them. He liked giving gifts that made other men get older. They reached a saddle in the ridge, a shallow, muddy amphitheater with a dead tree like a stage prop. Cross dropped to a knee and let his body learn the space. To their left, a hogback ridge went up toward the LZ like a serrated knife. To the right, the hill fell away into banyan roots and bad dreams. Parker knelt at his shoulder. "They'll push us here," he murmured. "Feels like a place you yell in." Cross let the word yell stand in the air, thick, tempting. Then he killed it. "No yelling," he said. "We make them doubt their feet." He placed 2 claymores where the trail pinched between boulders, hidden by ferns that had opinions about humidity. Kim ghosted in, cheeks streaked in mud, eyes bright. "Stairs taut," he whispered. "They're angry students." "Raven in 20, Cross said. "We buy 20 with 10. The first squad came up the trail fast, breathing like they'd just learned air was optional. The point man saw the dead tree and slowed. That little human pause before the lesson. Cross clicked the clacker twice. The claymores popped with the dry authority of a man who knows where you sleep. The front of the squad disappeared into sound and dirt and terrible education. The second squad froze, then sprayed rounds like water at a fire that couldn't be seen. Cross, Parker, Reyes, and Kim answered with single shots that lived where they landed. The jungle ate the echoes and asked for seconds. The survivors did what fear does when it remembers it has legs. They ran. Oates' last charge on the lower trail spoke one more sentence in the language of bad choices. The night took the punctuation. Cross exhaled. "Move." They climbed the serrated ridge. The rain returned in a fine, disrespectful mist. Cross felt his calves go to iron and then to fire. The medics kept rhythm by repeating the word glue. He wanted to laugh and didn't. He saved oxygen the way poor men save money. "Raven in 12, the pilot said, voice closer now, a purr under the storm. "Be pretty for us." They reached a knuckle of rock and bamboo where the ridge flared into a platform the size of a small god's palm. The LZ. Cross scanned. Trees close. A drop off the east face that promised a long conversation with gravity. Wind sliding across the ridge like a hand looking for keys. He planted strobes under fronds, eyes careful against the spill. Parker checked arcs. Kim stacked ammo mags like someone setting a table because family was coming home. "Ghost, we're visual on your winks," Raven called. "Wind's dirty. We'll tow in." One skid on, one skid flapping. "Copy," Cross said. He didn't add, "Don't miss." He believed in not cursing. Engines grew teeth. The MH-60 came in like a rumor you wanted to spread, nose high, rotors punching water out of the air. Searchlight off. The bird looked too large for the space and then somehow fit, a miracle of ugly grace. The left skid kissed rock. The right hung out over the valley's mouth. "Hostages first," Parker bellowed. Not a yell to the enemy, a shout to blood. Reyes moved the 3 medics like chess pieces leaving check. The woman looked back once, eyes asking a question Cross could not answer in a war. He nodded because sometimes nodding is what fathers do when they tell you there are no monsters and mean, "I will stand between you and any monster that wants you." Gunfire cracked through bamboo. The trucks had found an older trail and an older anger. Bullets stitched leaf and air. The door gunner swore in a patois only men who love miniguns know. Tracers chewed a line red across green. "Ghost, 30 seconds, the crew chief yelled. It meant 30 seconds to trade forever for later. Parker took a round and kept standing, surprised the way men are when the world is impolite. "I'm fine," he lied to his thigh. Cross shoved him toward the bird. "You're fine inside," he said. "Inside is where the fine lives." Kim dragged Oates by his plate carrier, both laughing like morons and prophets. Reyes climbed in after the medics, eyes still outside. Cross swept the ridge with 3 deliberate shots that made new widows out of men who had chosen this night and didn't understand the bill. He backed toward the skid. A round flicked his ear like an older brother. He tasted hot salt and old memory. "Chief," Parker yelled, and it was both a name and a promise. Cross stepped onto the skid, 1 foot in sky. The pilot held the bird like a man holds a thought he can't afford to drop. The mountain tried to stand up under them. A figure burst through the bamboo 10 yards out, a lean man with a rifle held low, muzzle level with intention. Cross recognized him by the way he moved, patient, precise. The smoker from the roof. The barrel came up. Cross fired once and put the bullet where the man's decision lived. The figure folded with a kind of grace Cross would remember when he could afford to feel anything. He stepped into the cabin. The crew chief yanked him in with a curse that sounded like a prayer. The pilot tore the bird sideways off the ridge. Rotor washed thrashing leaves into green screaming. The LZ fell away. The ridge slid backward like a tablecloth pulled by a magician too proud for humility. Fireflies of muzzle flash stitched the hill, and then grew small, and then grew memory. Inside the bird, men counted fingers they could lift and futures they could not yet see. The medics sat strapped and shaking, the woman's hands clasped so tight the knuckles had no blood in them. Parker winced at his thigh and gave Cross a grin with a little blood in it. "Told you I'm fine." "You're intolerable," Cross said, and felt his throat turn traitor. He looked out the door as the valley unwound into a map that was also a story. He let his head touch the cabin wall for a second and closed his eyes. The rotor noise filled the places inside his ribs where other men kept softer things. "Raven to Ghost," the pilot said after a time, voice easier now, like coffee after rain. "We'll be at Steel in 20. Doc is on deck. You did things the weather can't." He paused. "Good work." Cross looked at the medics. "You good?" he shouted over the engine. The woman nodded, then leaned forward, eyes steady. "You went under for us," she said. "We won't forget." Cross shook his head. "We go under for each other," he said. "You're part of each other now." The bird flew into cleaner air. The storm slouched west, tired of its own drama. On the horizon, the first hint of day bled into the black. A cut the night would not survive.